look at all of the hot topics in HR.
Whether it's passive talent or it's active talent.
That's a soft skill that really gets undersold in the hiring process.
How to manage in the virtual environment.
You get a diverse cultured group of people, it's a win-win for everybody.
More conversion from candidate leads.
What does that look like in this new virtual world?
Welcome everyone to Talent Experience Live. Don't adjust your watches or your clocks at home. This is Tuesday, but it is a special edition TXL. And as always, we are still here to talk about the hot topics in HRs, interviews with leaders in the industry, as well as hot new HR tech, covering everything that you need to know in recruitment, talent acquisition, as well as talent management. Comments have already started pouring in, so I am excited. John Riles is really looking forward to this episode, and it is a special one. So thank you all for joining me. But while you're here, John Ryle, I'm going to call you out. Please share this to your network. This is a new time slot for us, and we wanted to see what our reach is, so definitely feel free to share it there. And if you're not able to catch the full episode because it is 4:30 in the US or perhaps a little bit later in Europe for you and have some other things to do, you can always catch the recap on YouTube or follow us on LinkedIn, as well as on our Phenom website. We do a nice recap on the blog there. So since we already have the comment section opened up, feel free to begin to start chiming in with where you're from. I love to hear where people are tuning in from. Looks like we have a couple comments. Deshaun is he's joining us from Houston. So welcome, Deshaun. And Todd from Florida, welcome as well. We have an exciting topic for everyone today. We are talking about hiring volume, hiring lessons from a retail giant. Hiring volume is a good problem to have, as we all know this, but doing it during a business transformation as well as a global pandemic, it can push TA a bit to the limit. And the workload, as it continues to increase year over year for HR professionals, they need to know how they can navigate this and what support they can go. So just checking in with my chat, making sure that my guest can hear me today. We are joined today all the way from our guest from New Zealand. But before we bring her on and chat a little bit about the HR tech that she is leveraging, as well as some of the challenges that may have come over the past year, I want to kick things off with a nice little icebreaker question, which is, when things return to normal, where do you wish to travel to? Mine personally is going to be, I wish to travel to London. It was the last place that I visited prior to the pandemic, and it is the first place that I want to go. But also, I wouldn't mind checking things out in New Zealand as well. So as everyone still begins to trickle in, feel free to like and follow Phenom, smash the like button, as well as sign up for our emails. We do send out Talent Experience Live emails every week. If you are not a part of them, feel free to email txl@phenompeople.com. We would love to hear your feedback, how we can improve the show. If you're interested in joining, all of those are certainly options for everyone. And it looks like Jonathan Dale chimes in the comment section as well. Says he's going into the office tomorrow, which is very exciting news. Jen chimes in with, she wants to travel to the BVI. Her family had a sailing vacation plan last year and they missed out on. I was supposed to go to Greece last year. I missed out on that as well. So hopefully we can all scratch the itches for travel bugs that we have in the near future. But before we keep talking about vacations and me wanting to end the show and just book a trip right now, we do have a special guest, as I mentioned, and that is going to be Kim Nicholas, HR lead of talent acquisition at New Zealand retail giant, The Warehouse Group. Today, we're going to dive into recruitment challenges the company faced last year and how internal mobility and their platform kept their workforce informed, engaged, and helped bring employees back to stores and prepare them for their peak hiring season. So without any further hesitation, let's bring on Kim. Hey, Kim. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Nice to meet everyone. Hi.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. I wish that I could travel out to New Zealand and see you in person, because I've read and heard wonderful things, especially from one of my favorite shows, Flight of the Conchords. But Kim, it's tradition on this show that no one gets through without answering the icebreaker question. So I have to ask you, once things return to normal, where do you wish to go?
Oh, I tell you, listening to everybody's thoughts about travel, I could go anywhere. But Fiji would be good, just to sort of be on the beach, to have a slightly local place to support. But I'd love to go through Europe and do a trip through again. You mentioned Greece. When I was over there, I didn't get a chance to go through Greece, so that would probably be the top place.
There you go. Well, now you can start your list. You have plenty of time to start checking things off once things begin to return to normal. Also, tradition on the show is we always love to kick things off to hear a little bit about our guest's background. We call it a LinkedIn deep dive. But where did your career start, and how did it evolve into your position in HR?
Yeah, no problem. Look, a few years in a career now, so sort of going back is a little bit far, but I studied my BSc at Auckland Uni and studied psychology and criminology, which might seem random with the way I've gone in terms of recruitment, but actually fits in really well, you'd be surprised. But after that, while I was studying, was working within the warehouse stores, so that's one of the brands I actually currently work for now. And then moved up to being a retail store manager for an independent toy shop. Look, the travel bug gets a lot of Kiwis, so it got me as well, and ended up over in the UK, where I fell into recruitment, as a lot of recruiters do. And here I am many years later. Went into agency, and the commission was great. Meeting so many people and learning about businesses was just a fascination that I couldn't let go of. So kept going down recruitment, and then had this opportunity to move in-house, where I really wanted to sort of get to understand more around how recruitment can drive within a business, and get more into that HR perspective. And I had an awesome opportunity to come back to the warehouse group, but actually now recruiting in it. So it was really nice to have that sort of full circle around having worked in stores to now recruiting and sort of being part of the furniture to keep it alive from there. So been a big journey. Every year, I've been here now for nearly 6 years, and every year's been a learning and an experience and continuous stuff that just keeps coming up, which has been fantastic. Yeah,
that's spectacular. I love to hear that journey of going full circle, and actually working, at Warehouse Group outside of an HR role, probably only better equipped you to then, jump back into talent acquisition and human resources, since you are, I'm sure, so familiar with the inner workings of the organization and really what it takes. Combine that with your background in criminology, and I'm sure looking for clues and trying to find, the answers and the right pieces to the puzzle. It sounds like a match made in heaven. But looking back on that, would you say it's accurate that that role that you had previous at the Warehouse Group maybe prepared you best for your role in HR, or is it perhaps a different experience?
Totally. I think, like you say, sort of understanding the candidates that would be applying, the jobs that they would sort of be going for, and being able to speak to the hiring managers in a way that you go, I've been there, I've done that, I understand. It's definitely something that gets you that sort of stakeholder engagement a lot quicker. But actually also being the store manager role, even though it was a small independent business, being able to sort of be across different things as a manager, and within retail, you're doing everything. And that was definitely really good grounding in terms of sort of managing teams through to if something hasn't worked, and training and all of those aspects as well. The other thing, actually, sort of from a non-work perspective, now that I'm thinking about it, is actually even as a captain for my club hockey team for many years. And that experience is actually awesome, because it gives you great insight into working with people to reach a common goal, of course, but where you're not their managers, where nothing sort of else is there. So you've really got to be able to read people's different situations and how they work under pressure. That was also a great experience from a non-work perspective for me.
That's awesome, and that team environment, I think, is something that we can all relate to, whether it's work related or not work related. As a team captain, you have to kind of manage all of these different personalities and how people react to different situations. The same thing can be said for human resources and really any team, no matter what industry you are in or what position you have. But that was all fun. We kicked off the show talking about what we'll do when things, get back to normal, because obviously 2020 was anything but normal. And regarding the pandemic, New Zealand was in a bit of a different situation than I know I personally am in the United States. I see that you are in the office right now. JD is returning to the office. He mentioned in the chat, but not all of us have that opportunity. What was it like returning back to work and bringing employees back? Was it something that they were immediately comfortable with? Did you have to bring them back in stages? And what was that transition, like for you firsthand?
Yeah. Look, first off, hats off to everybody on this call. We do seem to live in a little bubble in New Zealand, so it's interesting sort of what we can sort of say. But hands off to everybody that I speak to over there. Yeah, it was an interesting one. So we ended up needing to close all our stores in the first lockdown. So all our store team members did not go to work, but our store support office kept working as many people do within corporates at home. So in some cases, like HR, your hours go up through a situation like this, and other people's go down. But really quickly, within a week, we were able to open our stores up again from an online perspective for essential items only. So we really quickly had to turn around and get our distribution team members back in store. We, the operations team did an amazing job sort of setting up fulfillment centres in some of our store networks, getting click and collect set up in the right safe way with all the right procedures and everything through there. And although we were only sort of doing, 10 to 20% of normal sales, we pretty much had as many hands on deck as we could to get us through everything. And online sales obviously skyrocketing and going through a process that many businesses and had to sort of learn through. We didn't really phase people to work, but where the phases sort of happened was, being there for our team members that were elderly, making sure they were sort of looked after. People who had kids at home, obviously they can't go in store if they needed to look after the kids, people with sort of medical conditions or anything. So we were really looking after the team from that perspective. Then when we came back into the support office, that first little while, it's kind of like you walk in, you go, "Can I give you a hug? Can I not? What are we doing? I'm just people. You really just want to touch people." But I'm an extrovert, so I was like, "Give me a hug." But you're also very conscious that you're living in this new world. So it was quite interesting. But we in that first situation, we made sure that it was only 50% max in the support office. We had most people still working from home and kind of having that balance between it all. But definitely still self-distancing and making sure we were sort of doing things as we could with our customers in store, and you've got all of those sort of in mind. But it's quite interesting. That was, back in April and May, and now it kind of feels like we're back to normal. But there's a lot of things that have changed. So, our flexibility, our work from home policies, and that kind of stuff is something that's really sort of stepped up. And I think people are really appreciating that flexibility now, that we have a lot more than we did have prior. Yeah.
No, it's almost funny to hear an HR professional say, "Hey, I want to touch you. I want to give you a hug." Right? That's something that you don't think of, but when you work so closely with so many people and you have that relationship of colleagues and say, "Hey, I missed you. I want to give you a hug." It has to be a surreal experience. So I thought that was a little humorous, but it's so much.
People that were introverts were even sort of going up going, "Wow, I can talk to someone." So it was lovely to see. Yeah.
Exactly. I don't have to talk to my dog anymore. I can actually talk to somebody in person. But one way that New Zealand has been, super successful with the ability to return to work, I know, has been closing the borders, right? And being in a retail environment, you obviously rely on individuals visiting New Zealand in order to find work and work during busy seasons, such as the holidays. So this past year, the pandemic, borders closed. It's almost the perfect storm, if you will, of a challenging HR environment for you. How difficult was this time, and what did you do to increase recruitment efficiency?
Yeah. Oh man, if you sort of take a look back now and you look at 2020, you just think, what a year for HR and recruitment, right? Last year, on top of sort of seasonal and border closures and all of this stuff, we actually had a couple of major restructures as well within our support office and our store network. So my amazing team were sort of doubling what we normally would do in a year anyway. And then to sort of go, borders are still closed, we've now got peak that we need to sort of look after was quite interesting. So we and obviously everybody was back in stores plus the restructures, so we didn't sort of have that side of things. But what we knew was going to happen was that we're going to have an influx of more applications, as we did see. So for our sort of just our seasonal peak fixed termers, we had around 17,000 applications compared to about 10,000 the prior year. And we wouldn't have done that if we didn't have a really good screening tool. So we knew it was going to come up. We changed our screening tool process, assessment tool, so we could really put in our key values and the key fit for what we needed for us and for our customers. And that matched our new way of working and our new reason that we put in a lot of the store structure changes in place. And that was brilliant. The stores were also ramped. We actually have been doing really well in terms of sort of people coming into the stores and from a retail perspective in general. So we needed to get people in a lot quicker. And that process, as well as the application process, really did make it easier for our store networks as well and from our side. And we actually, from a measurement perspective, although we're still sort of coming to the end of it, we did find that our time to hire actually went down and that the quality of hire has gone up. So just even a simple process like that was really good to see. Although I'm saying all of that, this coming year I think is going to be quite interesting. So, and it's hard to think about Christmas now, but we start for Christmas peak in August, right? So, last year we sort of saw the funnel of candidates increase for our peak season, whereas this year, and even now, we're already seeing that funnel slow down, which is quite interesting. So New Zealand's unemployment rate at the moment is only 4.9%. Versus our predicted in sort of May last year, they were predicting it might go up towards 10%. So we're actually very lucky, and that's already decreased within the last month. So this year we're really going to have to work a lot more on the campaigns, being able to sort of drive processes, using Phenom to push out to the 100,000 applicants that we've got on our system, and really being able to drive that, which will be quite a different process to last year. But the key definitely is that ability to filter and have that assessment and really drill down into the quality. Yeah.
Absolutely. Speed and efficiency, I'm sure, is super important. For those of you just joining us, we are joined by Kim Nicholas, who is, I lost my HR lead in talent acquisition. Did I get that right? I apologize.
Yeah.
I lost my notes there. But you mentioned speed and efficiency, and almost some lessons learned from last year. Applying that to next year, where you say that it is going to be competitive. How do you measure effectiveness? Is it simply applications? Is it hires? Is it open rates on campaigns? There's so many tools and so many different avenues to outreach. What do you use to really measure effectiveness in those?
Yeah, you're right. There's so many sort of different things, and I think people are using it in different ways. For us, we've got a couple of new processes and systems in. Phenom obviously being one where we keep building it further, and being able to use those analytics a lot more is definitely what will keep us going. We're going to sort of drive down into time to hire and quality of hire, and the fact of how many people started a position and fell out of it. So one of our positions is a night full role where you're working night shifts and sort of obviously packing the shelves for the next day. A lot of those roles you kind of see a lot of fall through within a couple of days, when people go in and go, actually, maybe I don't want to do that. So how can we make that not happen? How can we explain the role more, put a lot more experience and communication up front, to stop that happening. We already saw a drop in that this last seasonal, so I really want to sort of push that piece of things to really get that communication out to candidates a lot more. And also in terms of sort of the right applicants. So even though we had the screening assessment tool, not everybody completes it all the time. So you do get those people that are just applying for the sake of applying, or those types of things, rather than really wanting the job. Which is always an interesting one, because you want to make it a quick application process, but you want to make sure that people actually want to spend the time doing an application to work for you in that type of situation. So yeah, we'll be doing a lot of work on more that churn and how we can keep people in there. Our distribution centre actually did a really good job. We took away some of the agency direct volume recruitment, and we took a lot more on in-house, and that sort of stability and process being more of an in-house recruitment experience has already shown a huge change to outsourcing something like that, even with that volume.
Well, I'm sure one aspect of that switch from agency to in-house is the ability to really showcase company culture, right? I mean, take your experience, for instance, you started off not in a human resources role as a store manager, and you're able to share some of your stories. I'm sure there's other members of your team who can share stories like that as well. And as we all know, lots of company culture goes into competitive hiring, right? If a candidate is torn between very similar roles at two different companies, they're going to probably look at compensation, but they're also going to look at work-life balance. What are the teams look like? Who would I be directly reporting to? So without giving away your secret sauce, what do you do at Warehouse Group that gives you the opportunity to truly differentiate yourselves as an employee, not just for candidates, but also for employees who may be looking to evolve their careers?
Yeah, no, great question. And I wish I could say I had a secret formula. And no doubt we could spend hours sort of talking around this topic. It's fascinating. I think, for us, we had a couple of major restructures that I mentioned last year. And for my team, we hired over 10,000 people versus 5,800 the year prior. And that was because a lot of that internal move, which can then influence, obviously, your employment branding, what people think, all of that sort of stuff, from how you go through that process in terms of sort of their referrals and all of that kind of stuff as well, which is quite an interesting one for us to sort of think about moving forward. But for us, our engagement, and if I look at the distribution centre, they are so tight with their family and engagement, and we do pay well in that area too, which is nice for them, but it is an ability for people want to work there because of the teams that they're working on and working with, which is very exciting. For our store support office, we've recently just flipped into the world of Agile, so company-wide Agile, which is a completely different way of working, right? So we flipped the normal organizational chart and switched everything around, which is exciting for a lot of people out there who want to get to understand it. So definitely working in that agile way of working is a differentiation for us as well, and really being able to sort of see that side of things come to life. We do a lot in terms of the community. We do a lot with sustainability. We're carbon neutral. All of those types of things are definitely a lot that we pride ourselves as Kiwis for the environment, and we definitely push that here at Warehouse Group as well. We raised over $5 million that we send out, sort of, that people don't necessarily know about, out to communities. So that's definitely a big factor for us. But sort of looking over the last year, on top of that, really pushing the flexibility, work from home as much as we can. Obviously, that's easier said for our store support office. For stores, you've got to be in the store, but really being able to make things work as much as we can. And really pushing a lot on our internal learning and development programs. So, how looking at bench strengthening more, looking at how we can develop people internally, especially with our borders closed. How can we do a lot more on that? So still early stages, really, given that could take years to sort of do, but we're really pushing a lot on that. And our learning team are just doing a fabulous job churning out so many online modules that they design and develop for us as a business themselves. For example, Agile, all of the different Agile modules, and for us being able to sort of develop from there is sort of key for us.
No, that's awesome. I love to hear about career growth, and you talked about it a little bit there through the learning in Agile, as well as the access to opportunities within the organization. And last week we actually had a success story for internal mobility on the show. A friend of the show, Lauren Burkle, came on and talked about her growth throughout her career, and would love to have had you on that episode, but it would be in the middle of the night for you, so I will not put you through that. However, I know that for IMHR, which was our conference we had back in early December, if anyone tuned in right now has not seen Warehouse Group's presentation on IMHR, definitely check it out at phenom.com/IMHR to view the full session. But you talked a lot about internal mobility in that. So could you share a little bit more about it? I know you teased a little bit there with referrals and career path and opportunities, but how has it really been successful for you at Warehouse Group?
Yeah, look, I am so stoked, to be honest, about how well the platform worked for us last year for what we really needed to, and we've got so much potential for what we're going to push it on for this year as well. So if I take you back right from the beginning of when we sort of launched our the internal mobility platform, and we pushed a lot on that employee experience, was when we were changing our support office. So we have about 1,200 people here, and we were disestablishing a majority of those people, and like I say, flipping them completely into a new agile way of working. And it's not an easy concept for people to get through. So what we wanted to do was just make sure that we communicated it even 6 months prior that this was coming up, so that we could get people communicated with, educated, and excited about the journey that we were going through. So we sort of had first envisioned sort of doing like a live careers fair, stands up, let's get all the different chapter area leads and tribe leads to chat. But then we sort of changed our mind. We thought that's great for sort of the moment, but we wanted something that could last kind of forever, but for people to be able to keep looking at information so that they can keep taking it in. So we decided to change it to a full digital experience instead, which, look, in hindsight, a couple of weeks later, going to lockdown was the best thing we could have done, I tell you. But we ended up creating 35 plus pages on the internal mobility site. And within each of those pages was around outlining each of our chapter areas, outlining each of the tribes, what their missions were, what they were going to do, what the org structure was going to look like. We also had recruitment pages, HR support pages, so that we could also support our team members through the change in processes. And we could put anything on there, and it was super easy to build the pages up. You've got to get the information from hiring managers, which is sometimes the tricky thing, but actually getting everything built was great. So we could put in videos and org charts and job descriptions, tips, and it was great. So we launched, and we had 1,400 new signups within 3 days, which was just awesome. Obviously, they're going on because they knew a restructure was coming up, but the fact that it was a new process and what a slightly good opportunity it was for us to get as many people onto the internal platform. The first couple of days, they were actually spending sort of 10 to 12 minutes on each pages. Over the next week, that sort of dropped down to about 6 to 7 minutes on the site, but there were multiple times that they were going back in. So constantly returning to the site and going through all the details as well. We then also used it for our store change process. So, and that ran through sort of from September and October, and through that time we had 4,000 new signups as well coming into the page to get themselves set up and look at more around what the structure process would be, and obviously apply, but again, them spending more time on the site looking at the different processes for it. So, that conversion rate, that time on the pages was just phenomenal, and it really showed us how we could leverage the content and information we had in the right way for our team, for them to be able to go on whenever they wanted, take as much time as they wanted, contact us if they needed to. The other thing we used the system for that was quite successful, and we'll keep developing more and more in this, was our art placement stuff. So obviously those people that were leaving our business was really spending time running events. So So using the events process through Phenomenal and setting them up so that we could then, yes, we've got teams and we've got all the internal meetings, but it's about, getting the details so that we could send them information after they'd left, or so that they could join our different sessions that we would run after that as well. So that part of the process was really, really good as well.
No, I love that, because you initially talked about a career fair or something where you do this huge dog and pony show, if you will, to show employees about different opportunities within the organization, and then you immediately say that you had 1,000 people log on, within the first 3 days. So I immediately put myself, what if that event happens, I start a week later and it doesn't happen again for a year or 6 months. And by the time I get that itch to start looking for a new role, I don't know what's within the organization versus the opportunity to really look online. And Jen chimes in with change management can be such a challenge, but transparent communication with employees can really be a help. So by leveraging a lot of information for the employees within that, you're also engaging them and keeping them in communication for, I'm sure, the employee base that you have. I mean, you mentioned you have night shift workers, you have day shift workers. There's not really a conference call that you can get all of them on at one time, unless you go, of course, on the intercom throughout all of the stores, but that may not be the best experience for shoppers, right? So that a really central hub for them to not only refer individuals, but also look at new opportunities and see what's going on with the organization. Sounds like it's been super, super helpful for you. Now, fast forward, I know that winter season is coming up for you, and I'm sure that you have some initiatives related to both candidate and employee experience. What are you most excited about when it comes to the future? And how can technology guide you through some of these challenges that you may have previously had?
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, you're fine. And I know it's quite interesting. You guys are talking snow at the moment, and we're sitting still in the middle of summer. So different time zones, different parts of it all. For anyone that might not know, one of the hardest to fill roles that I've ever sort of looked for is actually snow technicians. They need qualifications and all of these different things, but also our extra sort of side of things is the fact that our borders are closed. So, we can't get the people that follow the snow from north to south sort of coming in, which is going to be very interesting for us. So we really have plans, and we've got a lot of things set up that we will push some campaigns through. So really those brand ambassador stories, some videos, utilizing, we've got over 100,000 unique applicants on the system. So how we can utilize that and really push our campaigns out to people that we've already got over the last 18 months, plus wider with other aspects and other social media and that side of things as well. But some of the other things I was sort of thinking of, and some of the stuff that we're looking at is actually even targeting and making that not just a hi, we've got jobs, it's about what can we do for them. It's kind of that value add that we're trying to do with the business. How can we value add for our candidates as well? And we've got to say, candidates are our customers and customers are our candidates, because we are retail. So, one of the things we're thinking of, for example, is sort of targeting to maybe have, some fancy guest snow speakers or talk about, the slopes so that it's actually not job related, but you can get people into that network, and from there you can get the right connections. And it's also, I think, one of the biggest things as well, as I was talking to sort of on a new, more junior sort of person on my team, and it's not just about us trying to get to just that one person. It's about getting to their network. A mum might read a post and go, "Oh, I know my son's best friend is a snow person." So it's those networks that we really want to push this year.
No, that's awesome. I love that idea of expanding and using every avenue that you possibly can. It's one thing that we're trying to do on this show, I know, is really reach not just recruiters, but also, candidates who are looking, for jobs and people who are in charge of technology and understanding experiences. And the same thing applies for jobs. I know back many, many lifetimes ago when it feels like since COVID, when I was a recruiter and I was on campus at college events, it wasn't just about who I met then and there. It was about who I met after the event. It was about the other recruiters. And if somebody wasn't a great fit for a finance role, but I was hiring for a logistics role, they would point them in my direction. So all of those things are certainly huge. Kim, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure having you on. I would love to come and help out with Warehouse Group, not as a snow technician because I'm not remotely qualified, but perhaps when it's snowing here in the United States, I'll come and visit in New Zealand when everything is normal, because that is certainly one of the places that I'm going to put on my list. But before we go, any final thoughts, anything you'd like to say, anything you'd like to promote, any stuff along those lines?
I am. Thank you to Phenom and the team. We've had a few journeys along the way, being in New Zealand and some things here, but the team have really worked really well for it. And I can't wait for this year where we can really keep utilising and learning from the things that we have to really push us. So we definitely want to keep that internal communication going in different ways. So that's going to be critical for us as well. And just continuing those stories and. Like a lot of people, employment branding was probably not the top of their priority last year. That's a big push for us this year as well. So, out there to all the talent acquisition people and HR teams are listening in, all the best. I hope you and your teams are doing well. Feel free to loop in at any stage if you want to through the Phenom team or direct to me as well. Happy to always chat through these things in more detail, but stay safe, everybody. And if you do ever visit New Zealand, please come and see us.
Will do. Enjoy the rest of your day. I know it is morning there, so wish you nothing but the best. I hope it is smooth sailing for the majority of the rest of your day, but we can't wait to see you soon, and hopefully we'll have you on in person. But we'll talk to you later.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye. Awesome. Well, there you have it. That was Kim Nicholas from the Warehouse Group talking about some of the challenges over the past year and some of the successes that they found as a retail giant at Warehouse Group. If you're just tuning in now, don't worry. The full episode will be on the Phenom blog as well as YouTube and LinkedIn, or you can tune in this Thursday to catch the recap. But before everyone leaves, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about our episode last week, because this was so employee experience centric and we talked a lot about internal mobility. We have a clip from our episode last week, which was entitled New Job, Same Place, a firsthand internal mobility success story, where we chatted with both Lauren Burkle and Jesus Latour Sokas, and he showed us a bit of a product demo and what that employee experience looks like. So rather than me talk about it, let's just air the clip so that you can see it in person.
The goal here, and the goal of many companies, I should say, not only just us Phenom, is really to upskill and retain talent within the company. And that's really where our employee experience tools come into play. We really want to give and empower your employees to be able to look internally before they ever look externally, right? The goal is, what jobs do I have available to my disposal internally that I can think about moving to? And also give them the tools to identify, if they are interested in this job, how do they get there?
Last week was certainly an awesome episode, both from Lauren and from Jesus' perspective, sharing not only the technology, but also the story itself. So definitely check that out and tune in on Thursday for a recap if you have missed any of this show. But before I go, don't forget to like and subscribe Phenom on all of your favorite social channels. We are producing content on a regular basis. I know I'm producing a lot of it, so definitely appreciate that. And a special thank you to everyone tuning in today. I saw John, Jonathan Dale, Jen Thomas, Monica, Christine, Samantha Wilkins saw she wished to go to Disney World and missed her 40th birthday. Happy belated birthday from me. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Matt. We really can't do the show without you, and I hope to see you on Thursday if you missed anything at all. But in the meantime, everyone, please stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you next week or Thursday if you feel like tuning in again.